Hello, what's up ladies and gentlemen, I am Pac-Man here, and I am from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our brand new Let's Play. This time we're going to be continuing on with the Wario Land series of games, because last time that I believe Mighty the Armadillo has recently tackled through Wario Land 3 ever since in 2021 during autumn. Whilst now in the forms of February 2022, here we are now on to the forms of the next Wario Land game, and this appears to be Wario Land 4 for the Game Boy Advance. Now, this game first came out in 2001, which I can't even believe this game has been out for about 2 decades ago, along with the Game Boy Advance, along with the Nintendo GameCube as well, and even the forms of the OG Xbox, and all kinds of titles here and there. So as you can see on screen, much like the forms of Mario vs Donkey Kong Let's Play that Maxi has already tackled through ever since during the course of, specifically back in 2021, I'm going to be playing on the Wii U version of the game just because I just feel like the quality should be a little bit more nicer when it comes to like some pixels and everything. So as a result though, I was originally trying to play this on the Game Boy player, but unfortunately though is the fact that I have, I think that Ray the Flying Squirrel is still working on Mario Party 7, so just to tackle through some extra stuff every once in a while. So anyways, let's get started with Wario Land 4. Now, right from the get-go, much like in the forms of how it does it on Wario Land, Super Mario Land 3, we actually have ourselves our file selection here, along with the forms of Virtual Boy Wario Land as well, because unlike Wario Land 2 and 3, there just simply just only gets like one file selection, so that's pretty much about it. And also, for the first time ever in a Wario platformer games, as far as I remember correctly, that we actually got ourselves the difficulty setting, which I think the only differences between those two difficulties, both normal or hard, is the fact that I'm pretty sure that we'll discuss more about that as soon as we get started with Wario Land 4 for the Game Boy Advance. And it feels like that Wario just managed to investigate with this golden pyramid, and he goes inside. And what's up with that strange cat? Well, it seems like Wario is trying to able to follow that particular cat, and somehow he falls into the hole as we go. And this actually leads us to this giant hallway of any sorts, to able to lead us to, well, at the moment right now, that we can only actually access to one passage at the moment, which appears to be the entry passage. Although later on, that we will able to actually start to progress to the forms of another 4 passages. So hopefully, we should be able to actually do just that. So, anyways, so right from the get-go, we can able to actually get into the very first level in the game, which appears to be calls it Hall of Hieroglyphs. So, yeah, this is the first stage in the game, which actually just managed to tell you the actual tutorials and some stuff like that. So, here we go, on to Wario Land 4, like I said. So, if you ever played the previous Wario Land games before, at least ever since the forms of Wario Land 2 and Wario Land 3, then you feel right at home with the forms of how the gameplay style actually works. You're still able to actually just to do ground pounding, and also just a shoulder bash, and, well, let's just say an elbow bash in particular. And also that you can able to actually perform some signature moves, like for instance with the forms of that specific move that it tells you on screen. And also that there's something new to this game, which appears to be by the forms of, well, let's just say a Headbutt Dash or something like that. Even though it has been a long while since I actually did manage to last play Wario Land 4, because for some reason I keep on thinking about the forms of Wario Land 2 and Wario Land 3 for some reason, because as far as I'm aware that I always managed to enjoy those two games. Well, despite in Wario Land 3 it does give you a ridiculous amount of backtracking here and there. So as a result though, you might actually just be able to consider that. So, once again, you're still able to collect coins and stuff like that. Now here's the thing about this game this time around, is the fact that, well, relatively speaking, it's just the fact that no matter where it starts, as you can see on the top left corner of the screen, we now actually have hearts, which meaning it actually acts out as a health bar. So meaning about the fact that if you get hit by certain enemy contact, as well as the forms of certain boss encounters later on, that if you did get hit by that, or well, any enemies or hazards, you lose one of your hearts. And it's important to note that the reason I'm going to be able to try to be super steady and careful for the majority of this Let's Play itself, mainly because I'm actually going to be going for the 100% completion for the sake of, well, unfortunately though, this is going to be on normal mode run through, not on hard mode, because, well, I was expecting to be up for the challenge, but unfortunately though, that doesn't seem to make it happen. So, and also throughout the game is the fact that you will come across into those weird key-like fellows right here, which I'm not exactly sure what their names are, so I was able to actually look it up on Mario Wiki at some point until, well, this first day in general, because obviously that Maxi is still working on, you know, Super Mario 3D All-Stars recently, so hopefully though that you will be able to actually continue uploading schedule for that. So yeah, you get the idea about this goes. And also that since this game is now on the Game Boy Advance, the game visually standpoint is so pretty this time around, with all this like sprite work and everything else to be more specific, and also much like the forms of how it does it on well, Wario Land 2 and Wario Land 3, I will try my best to be able to actually just to get the insane amount of coins throughout the certain runs for certain levels. That meaning in order to able to 100% the game, for most of the levels anyway, is that you got to able to get a certain crown if you do manage to able to get, well, let's just say for example that I've almost at the 10,000 coins mark, and meaning about the fact that if I somehow reach that specific amount, as soon as you're able to actually leave the level just like that, basically, it allows me to able to get ourselves the forms of a gold crown record. So, that'll be a part of a plan for the sake of the forms of this entirety of certain runs for certain departments. And also, that as you can see, we actually got ourselves our certain jewel pieces, which meaning that in order to progress through the game, specifically if you go straight towards at the very end of certain passages, basically though, that in order to able to progress, you need to collect all 4 of those jewel pieces, and if you collect all 4 of them throughout in each level, then you would able to actually insert it onto that specific door. Like, let's just say, for instance, that since I've actually got all the jewels throughout that particular level, this means I can instantly go into the forms of, well, let's just say the first boss in the game, which appears to be Spoiled Rotten. So, and there's also some other 2 doors that, as you notice, that we actually already come across into the minigame room or the item shop, which I will show those off later, because as far as the first boss in the game, this is by far the easiest boss throughout the game. So there might be not much difficulty in there. And also keep this in mind, while you're trying to deal with the bosses, you now need to rely on a time limit. So because of that though, we only have 1 minute to do this. So, overall it's a pretty easy boss fight when you get the hang of it. However though, if depending on what difficulty you select, the only differences between the forms of normal, hard, or even a super hard difficulty, unlockable difficulty, the only differences between those 3 difficulties, depending on what difficulties you run to, basically you do have less time depending on what difficulty you select. Like, I believe if I recall, in normal mode you only have to deal with this boss fight within a minute, and I believe in hard mode you have to deal with the boss fight within 30 seconds. And I believe on super hard mode you only have to deal with this boss fight within 15 seconds, which is, I'm not gonna lie, pretty tough and difficult. But regardless of such, the entry passage is being completed, so, because to be expected, it's one of the easier worlds in the game, so. But now we're done with that, and now we can able to actually access to all 4 of those passages now. So this means that we can able to actually go either the Emerald Passage, or the Ruby Passage, or Turquoise Passage, or the Sapphire Passage, which, relatively speaking, you can actually go into any passage as much as you wanted to, so it's entirely up to you. So as a result though, I think for this playthrough, I think we should probably get started with the Emerald Passage first, because this is one of the easiest passages throughout the game. And the next level we're going to be hopping into is Plum Tree Paradise. Seems like a very standard beach environment level, so yeah, let's hop right into the forms of this particular level right here. So, yeah, I apologize about the fact that my commentary gets a little bit slightly iffy, mainly because, once again, I keep on complaining about the forms of my computer starts lagging, so, but hopefully it should be fixed by then. So, anyway, and also throughout the game that you already noticed about the fact that I've already do manage to take down certain enemies with their different color variations, because, well, that's the perfect example of why I'm going to be going for 100% completion. This is mainly because of multiple things. One is, of course, pretty obvious. Need to grab every single pieces of the jewel to able to actually just to get into the forms of the boss door. And, also, there is, the gold crown runs on certain levels, which, as I said this before, in order to do that, you need to get up to 10,000 coins throughout in each level. So because of that, though, sometimes it can either be easy, like the beginning portion of the game, whilst there are a few times it can be pretty difficult until later on, which you can definitely know why until whenever we get into the Sapphire passage. So, anyways, and there's also the forms of a well-hidden CDs, which should be placed some portions of their very well-hidden areas. So, and also throughout the enemy encounters, that as you notice that we've already taken down the red variations of certain enemies. That it's pretty easy to take down, but they do have some different properties if you're trying to able to deal with certain enemies if they turn red. Like for instance, that for these simple based enemies, that as you noticed already from a few moments ago, that I have to ground pound for that enemy like once. And then that way, eventually it starts off with purple, but then eventually it'll turn to red. So that way I can able to get my better chance to able to get the best coin value. And also that these diamonds right here, as you can see, are actually worth 1,000 coins. And yeah, that's basically how this goes, basically. And I believe with those frog coins, that I'll show this off later, that's basically, though, is the fact that it actually gives you a lot of coins, which you'll find out soon enough. And also, we got these gold coins, which actually worth us about 500 coins. So, that'd be worth a while, though, especially noticeable if you really want to get the golden crown runs. So that way, you can able to get the benefit for the doubt where it comes to likely get the best runs if possible. And also, we got ourselves the familiar transformation for those who ever played Wario Land 2 and Wario Land 3. This appears to be Fat Wario, which once again you can able to actually just become fatter if you come across into an enemy that managed to toss the actual food chunk at you, like an apple for instance in this game this time around or something. And basically, much like the forms of how it does in Wario Land 2 and Wario Land 3, it allows you to able to actually access to those very hard secrets, like for instance that particular block needs to be breakable, and to able to become fatter if you manage to win through underwater. So yeah, that's basically how this goes. And also that throughout the game that you will stumble across these secret rooms, which actually gives us the ability to able to use this fellow right here as a projectile, which you can't kill him necessarily because all he does is basically, it kind of feels like it reminds me of, well, let's just say the sandbag from the Super Smash Bros. Games. But except the fact that, well, relatively speaking, it doesn't give you any rewards if you keep on punching him. So, yeah, I digress. So, yeah, obviously today's day is of course the 8th of February today, in this case in 2022 today. So, naturally speaking, I think we've only got about 6 days to go until specifically Valentine's Day. So because of that though, yeah, it's actually getting quite close, potentially speaking, when it comes to able to celebrate the actual love interest for certain people out there. And, also during that time is the fact that until 2 days time is the fact that the Mario and Sonic at the London 2012 Olympic Games for the Nintendo 3DS version, it will become a decade old, specifically in the UK country, although in the America version didn't came out until, strangely enough, it came out on exactly the same day as Valentine's Day, and also until, as far as I realized something, is the fact that between Poke Park 2 Wonders Beyond on the Wii, specifically, I would say the English version of the game, as well as Kid Icarus Uprising for the 3DS, until next month, that those two games will become a decade old. So, yeah, time flies, doesn't it? So as you can see, that there are a few occasional moments, as you can see, that we already technically see it ever since in the very first level in the game. Basically, until at the very end of the level, that in order able to actually complete the level, as you can see, that we somehow activate the actual the frog switch, which allows you to able to activate the actual bomb time and basically you do have about a certain amount of minutes and certain amount of seconds before you leave the level. So as a result though, it's all about, well, just hurry up and all that stuff. But also I just realized that certain voice clips in this game will actually bring it back from the likes of WarioWare Inc. Minigame Mania, along with WarioWare Twisted as well, because those 3 games usually came out on the Game Boy Advance, so... And there we go, we got ourselves a glorious gold crown, and also we got ourselves the CD disc, which allows you to able to unlock certain music as soon as you progress in the game. So, there we go, that pretty much wraps it up for Plum Tree Paradise. Again, it's a pretty simple and easy level, which is, well, pretty true for circumstances. And we got the first jewel fully connected, and let's move on to the next level, which is Wildflower Fields. So, should be a pretty chill out level and stuff like that. Although it can be pretty tricky at times with this level though, mainly because you have to rely on the forms of that specific transformation, another familiar transformation for Wario Land 2 and Wario Land 3, which appears to be Puffed Wario, except there's actually a new thing this time around when it comes to utilizing Puffed Wario, is that I believe if you press the B button, you can able to actually go up a little bit faster this time around, so I guess it's like a good thing, especially noticeable if you're having trouble just trying to able to travel to one place to the other, then more power to you into able to actually decide able to use that particular technique, or that particular move right there, so... But I digress. And also there are a few moments like this, is the fact that, that much like the forms within the past 2 games, if you dare touch the ceiling, then you go back to its normal form, just like that. In fact, it's actually a little bit faster than the forms of how it does it on Wario Land 2 and 3. Well, I don't know about you, because something about the forms of the game's running speed is actually somewhat feels a bit slightly smoother, so because of that though, it just feels like I just have no words to say. Oh, and by the way, if those bees manage to able to actually just try to sting onto that particular sunflower, or one of those flowers in particular, that it just usually gets stuck into the flower. Although the only way you can able to become Puff Wario again is the fact that you have to be able to get poked by that particular thing itself. Thankfully, these bees doesn't hurt you, they just simply just make you transform into that particular Puff Wario state. So, and as you can see, we got another CD right there, so that should be good to go. And also, if you manage to get hit by enemies and all that stuff, or even certain spikes every now and then, I believe you do lose a bit of some coins, which is a bit stingy sometimes, but regardless of everything else though, is the fact that luckily you can able to actually get some of your money back, which it does feel very similar to the likes of Luigi's Mansion for a bit, that if you get hit by certain like hazards or ghosts in that game, basically you lose some bit of money while you can get some of it back. So, well, nothing much though from the likes of Luigi's Mansion, which, kind of think about it, between Wario Land 4 and Luigi's Mansion, both came out in the same year, in 2001, I just realized. So, but usually relatively speaking on a different hardware, so... Anyway, so we've managed able to ground pound this another secret room, or this hidden area that we can able to actually investigate through, so yeah, I think this stage can be feels a bit lengthy at times, especially noticeable about every once in a while the levels get much longer now, especially noticeable about the fact that, well, it feels like a combination of the forms of, well, you know, it's very much like, you know, Wario Land 2 and Wario Land 3, except now it's on the Game Boy Advance, like I said earlier, so... Anyways, let's grab the diamonds, so that way we can able to actually get ourselves 1,000 coins, so that'll be worth a lot of money if you're trying to able to go after more of those diamonds, so... That should be worth a while and stuff like that. And also, I just realized that we actually got ourselves a bit of a gauge right here, underneath that particular health bar. I'm not exactly sure what that does, I must be honest, because it has been a long while since I actually managed to last play Wario Land 4. So, yeah, forgive me of my lost memories for the sake of this game. So, but I definitely heard of the game back in the day, of course. But it wasn't until I've managed to able to get the physical copy of the game back in 2011, which, along with the forms of Pac-Man World 2 for the PlayStation 2, as well as the forms of Super Mario Land for the Game Boy, along with Super Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins, that, just because of how the fact that I just like to try something new when it comes to likely some of my favorite franchises that I've overly become. So anyway, let's just go ahead and trying to do a powerful ground pound while trying to do just this. And that should able to give us the ability to go into that purple pipe as we go to another secret room. So once again, we have to use this guy to able to actually just well, trying to solve as many puzzles as we could. Although, relatively speaking, this first part is pretty easy. So, well, at least specifically, it gets a bit trickier later on, though. But I honestly have no words to think about it. Because, again, it's been such a long while since I actually did done some of my commentary on Wario Land stuff. Yeah, as you can see, if I get hit, basically, some of my money will be lost. So, but thankfully, I can able to re-grab the money again, specifically the 500 coin one. So, because of that, though, that way you can able to re-grab that at any point. So, but you lose your one heart. So that's something to keep in mind. Which, again, it will actually reuse that from the likes of you know, Wario Land, the Shake Dimension, if the actual heart system comes into play. But, relatively speaking, I think we'll probably let some toys else will mention more about, you know, Wario Land, the Shake Dimension until eventually in this year or 2023. If depending on the forms of Super Mario 3D All-Stars of how long that particular Let's Play will last for. But I digress. But yeah, there's not much else I can talk about it for the sake of the forms of how Wario Land 4 plays out. It's basically Wario Land 2 and 3, except on a new hardware, which, you know, back in the forms of 2001, this is certainly still looks very impressive back then, which is especially true about the fact that, well, it has a lot more sprite work and stuff like that, and also I will have to admit though, I really enjoyed the music in this game, which, I suppose I think I should probably save that topic until specifically whenever we get into our final thoughts of the game, until throughout the majority of February, if possible, depending on the forms of how long certain levels usually takes. So yeah, I wasn't able to actually just try to classify for that. And also, one thing is the fact that we've only just got about 1 month left until, specifically, that Mario Party 9 will become a decade old, which some people are not a big fan of the game due to the forms of the cart mechanic, and also they found the actual themes of the actual boards and minigames are super generic. But I don't mind the game personally, it's just that it's not one of my favorites, along with Mario Party 10, and as a result though, that's the reason why a lot of people seem able to every now and then enjoys Mario Party Superstars a lot more, just because of the forms of a massive throwback to the forms of the greatest hits for the sake of the Mario Party's past. Like, that's how it should be done to begin with. Well, usually back in 2017, although it's not so, because it's on the 3DS, so, oh well. So anyways, let's go and use that caterpillar thingy right here to bounce us back up. I do apologize if my commentary gets a little bit stingy at points, but hopefully until on Thursday, then I would able to actually get into a bit of a better habitance when it comes to likely trying to discuss on something. Although, there was supposed to be able to actually just try to mentioning about, for the likes of the continuation of the Beijing 2022 Winter Olympic Games, but I'm sure that Maxi has already mentioned about this a lot for the sake of the forms of Super Mario 3D All-Stars Let's Play already. So, anyways, let's get puffed up and trying to fly all the way higher up until we're able to decide to get ourselves, what else? Another diamond. So anyways, that's that, and we're able to continue things on here. Yeah, I think for the most part, this level's not too bad, honestly. It's just the fact that it can be a bit tricky at times due to the forms of, you know, you have to be able to actually just try to utilize the puffed Wario transformation in order to able to not only just trying to make your way up there, but also just try to avoid the spikes up in the ceiling. So because of that though, although I'm not exactly sure if this might be actually be the only emphasis about the fact that, or the only emphasis on the forms of certain transformations on quite a little bit amount of levels this time or something like that, although then again, my memories of Wario Land 4 is a little bit fake at the moment, unlike Wario Land 2 and Wario Land 3, but that's probably just me anyway, so. Alright, so we're gonna have to able to not to do that, but that's okay, because I think at this point I've almost reached up to 10,000 money at the moment, although we can able to actually just to smash this thing here and grab some more of those little specific gems and stuff like that, and another secret room just right down there. So yeah, for this one we have to able to charge our throwing maneuvering. So by the way, that one thing I forgot to mention about is the fact that unlike in Wario Land 3, that thankfully in this game is the fact that relatively speaking, all of your signature moves has already become there from the get-go this time around, which unlike in Wario Land 3, they do need to unlock certain signature moves for the sake of like, well, for the regular movesets, for the sake of likely unlock progressioning from certain treasure chests in Wario Land 3, whilst in Wario Land 4, that thankfully though, every single moves is actually there from the start, just like in Wario Land 2, so yeah, it's to be expected. So anyways, let's go in there and grab another diamond, so that way we get ourselves another 1,000 coins and stuff. So I think that pretty much does it for this level, although aside from the fact that, well, I feel like I'm almost missing something, but I get the feeling that the last jewel piece is going to be later on, so let's activate the actual frog switch timer to try to get the heck out of here, but we only got about 2 minutes and 30 seconds to do so. So hopefully we're able to get plenty of time to do it without even getting puffed, that's the only thing. Alright, so we're just gonna have to do just this. And by the way, that's a new move what Wario just did right there, which appears to be the Headbutt Dash. And basically, it's pretty good for you, especially noticeable if you're trying to able to... Oh, son of a biscuit, I hate these guys. Anyway, it can actually be helpful for you, especially noticeable if you try to speed things up a little bit. Oh yeah, that's the last jewel piece I was going to be on about. So yeah, that way you can able to actually just try to able to not only destroy certain hard blocks, as you already know from the likes of the first level in the game, but also it allows you to able to actually get quick access to the forms of certain speed tactics right there. So there we go, that pretty much wraps it up for Wildflower Fields, and sure enough, we're able to get ourselves not only the CD, but also the full jewel, and of course the gold crown, so that should be worth a while. And also I got a whole bunch of coins in my coin bag right now. So speaking of using those coins, potentially speaking, for the actual coin bag, I think I'll talk more about that whenever we get into the forms of towards the very end of the Emerald Passage, because we've only just barely got started, so I think suffice to say, I think we should probably ending stuff at this point right here, so join me next time for more of Let's Play of Wario Land 4, and that is the fact that we are moving on to the halfway point of the Emerald Passage. That's what appears to be by the forms of Mystic Lake, and eventually the next boss afterwards or something like that. So I'll see you guys on Thursday. Later fellas.